Today, I invite you to walk with me. Let's talk about the things we usually keep inside. You and me both. According to contemporary clinical psychology and neuroscience, individuals who are prone to explosive or frequent bouts of anger are miscategorized if we simply label them as difficult or inherently mean-spirited. The true, underlying dynamic at the root of their struggle is a significantly compromised stress regulation system, meaning their overall tolerance for psychological and emotional friction is remarkably low. They are essentially operating with a hair-trigger nervous system. Instead of being able to neutrally observe and calmly process a minor frustration, a perceived slight, or an inconvenience, their limbic system, the brain's ancient emotional center, registers the event not as a nuisance, but as a high-magnitude threat. The body is instantly flooded with survival hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, forcing them into a rapid, reflexive fight mode response. This immediate and disproportionate reaction means that a trivial event, a miscommunication at work, a momentary technological glitch, or a simple change in a long-awaited plan is experienced internally with the same intensity as if they were literally under physical attack. And in this state of acute physiological distress, anger emerges not as a calculated choice, but as the quickest, most effective, and often the only tool their brain has learned to instantaneously discharge that unbearable, overwhelming internal pressure. The sheer velocity of the anger is proportional to the volume of unreleased stress their system has been holding. This pattern of emotional hijacking is almost always deeply patterned during developmental years. It often originates in a dysfunctional or emotionally neglectful childhood environment, where a child's natural expressions of vulnerability were either consistently ignored, explicitly shamed, or even punished. When a young person is denied a safe space to articulate the nuance of their sadness, the fear that grips them, or their legitimate disappointment, those profound and primary emotions do not dissolve. Instead, they become psychologically compressed and are often defensively transmuted into a more socially acceptable or personally empowering emotion. Anger. Anger feels decisive, powerful, and protective, constructing an emotional shield against the terrifying weakness and potential harm associated with expressing vulnerability. As the years pass, the neural pathways solidify. The brain learns to treat the aggressive outburst as a default, an ingrained automatic reflex that bypasses higher-order rational processing. It is deployed with explosive speed, even in the most benign and non-threatening circumstances. This recognition is crucial. The raw emotion of anger is not the villain of the story. It is a critical, albeit sometimes chaotic, messenger. Its presence screams that something far deeper needs attention. A foundational wound, persistent psychological distress, chronic emotional invalidation, or a deep-seated feeling of being fundamentally unseen and misunderstood by the people around them. The great tragedy is that when anger becomes the primary, loudest voice, the sole method of communication, it sabotages its own objective. It pushes away the very people whose presence and compassion could facilitate true healing, creating a cruel paradox. The aggressive reaction perpetuates a cycle of isolation and loneliness, which tragically feeds back into the original pain and stress that gave rise to the anger in the first place. If this narrative resonates within your own experience, please internalize this truth. Your struggles with a quick temper are not an indictment of your moral character. They are compelling evidence that your nervous system and your entire being have reached a state of profound fatigue from the exhausting, unrelenting task of suppressing and carrying immense emotional burdens and unspoken traumas. The journey toward healing does not demand that you eradicate your anger, but that you reframe it. The practice of learning to intentionally pause, to breathe deeply, to create a mindful beat of space between the trigger and the reaction, is not a sign of emotional feebleness. It is arguably the most demanding and courageous act of self-advocacy possible. It is you finally granting your whole, hurting self the radical opportunity to be understood, to be genuinely validated, and to finally process your pain without the devastating collateral damage of setting your world and your relationships on fire. If you like this content, please follow me and share this post with 3 of your friends.